to discuss the project. Right now, we have anticipated start date January the 6th or shortly thereafter. Moving forward, utilities has been dealing with a water main leak on Knox Avenue over the past several days. They worked throughout the entire weekend. There's an 8-inch leak underneath Knox Avenue at the intersection of Hugh Street and Whitlaw. We elected late Sunday to go in and insert a valve at Knox Avenue and Whitlaw to isolate the leak underneath the pavement. During the process, they cut into the pavement twice. That's going to need to be repaired. We're going to step back after we finish with the storm event and things settle down a little bit with operations, and we're going to go back out and we're going to turn that into a night project. So right now, everything is okay with the system. There's no problems, and we'll be able to address that project at our own scheduled time.
Any questions? I was going to ask you, as I was driving down the other day, it looked like further almost to where the North Lane bowling alley is. Looked like there was water coming out of the road there. Did y'all find that?
Well, that was the water was discharging from a telecommunications manhole. That's where that water was coming up from. That's what you're saying. That's what the water main was leaking into a conduit underground. That's why it's been so difficult to locate the leak.
Thank you, James.
Next up, Planning and Development Department, Tommy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Planning Commission will meet next week for the regular meeting.
And Tommy, do we know when Cracker Barrel's coming? No, I'm kidding. Do we know when Hobby Lobby is going to open the doors? A lot of people want to know.
I do not know.
You don't know?
I haven't heard.
Okay.
Tommy's got power, not that much power.
Next up is Public Safety Department, Captain Sherman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Good evening. Just a few updates. Chief's off this week. He's in a training class, so I'm getting to step in for him. Exciting times at Public Safety. Started last week. CID began the move to the new Public Safety headquarters. So morale's real high. Everybody's so excited. And we got mostly everything moved in from that division. We still are, this week we're focusing on the other part of CID, which oversees evidence. We're getting evidence moved up this week, which is a very detailed process. And the completion of that, we'll have to do a 100% audit of all the evidence just to make sure everything's good. The evidence custodian will be lock and step with every inch of that. He has to oversee that whole operation to testify to that. Also, the parade was a great success. Talked with Lieutenant Sadler this morning. He said there was no issues. One broken down fire truck that was not ours. It was an antique fire truck, but it didn't get going. So that was the only problem they had with any kind of traffic. And then other exciting news, Public Safety was awarded a JAG grant for $87,000. And what that's going to allow us to do is outfit basically every officer we have with a taser. Mr. Clifford was a big process in that and signed off on that grant. And, that's going to offset the cost of that to the city to get our officers outfitted. That'll give them more or less lethal option when it comes to enforcing laws. So that's all I got right now.
Awesome.
Thank y'all. Have a great
Well,
day.
I have to keep bragging on Luke Sherman. I love Luke Sherman.
Thank you, Mr.
But I just always think of him as a little teenager working in that rec department, making those hot dogs that we loved. And look at him now, captain of the NAPD.
I've been here a while. So.
You have, Luke, and I appreciate you and love you.
Yes, ma'am. Love you too.
Thank you, Captain.
Next department, Rick with Parks and Rec.
Follow the graduate of Parks and Rec to Public Safety is. The Creighton Park Task Force has selected Compan Incorporated for the new playground for Creighton Park. We are working on a contract, purchase order, and timeline, and hope to say more about that in the near future. I'll see you. Okay, be good? Yes. Greenway update. R&R Tree Service is working this week on debris piles from Cypress to the Martintown Road Bridge. That section is not quite ready for open. We have folks trying to get out there, and we just want to remind them, wait till we're finished and we inspect it before you jump out there. And also, R&R wanted me to relay that they're working also another crew from the Martintown Road Bridge to Knotty Pine, and we've got some dangerous trees in that area. We shored up both ends of the Greenway blockades. We really need our folks to stay off that, to keep the crews safe and to keep themselves safe. We love our Greenway users, but just have a little more patience with it. We're making progress and look forward to give them the good news as each section opens up. And the last thing I have is this weekend, starting Friday night, youth basketball gets into action. We have over 700 participants in this year's program, and it's time to tip it off.
And I'm gonna brag on this too. The 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, we have 12 teams with 10 players per team.
Correct.
I mean, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank y'all.
You dribble with two hands. You dribble with two hands, a 4-year-old. Okay. You're running with it. Okay. Thanks, Rick.
Next up is Carl with tourism.
Whew.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We got a couple photo op stations for the holiday season for the public to enjoy. One is at the corner of Pine Grove and West Avenue, and the other station is at the end of Center Street between Crown Plaza and SRP Park. They're interactive and they come on. They're on photo cells, meaning they come on around 5:20, 5:30 in the evening. It's a great place to take your holiday photo if you choose to do so. Explore North Augusta. I started a scavenger hunt. We're about day 4 of it or so. It's going to go on for the next couple of weeks. We release the clue every day and give some small prizes away over the next couple of weeks. Had good response from it so far. And we don't release them at the same time every day. It's intentional for folks that, maybe in the workforce or you're a stay-at-home mom, give everybody an ample opportunity. So keep on hitting that refresh button. You never know what time of day it's going to come out. Some notable events coming up. The Chamber of Commerce is having their power lunch tomorrow upstairs, 4th floor of this building, in the Palmetto Terrace. Dean of Business from USC Aiken will be speaking on economic forecasts. 12 Days of Christmas contest is going on downtown North Augusta. A lot of business participating in that. SRP Park on Saturday, December 14th, will be hosting their holiday bazaar centered around the Hive gift shop. Santa will be there, concessions, vendors, and a station for Toys for Tots as well. Just a reminder, looking ahead a little bit, Thursday, December 19th is Third Thursday. And also that Thursday, the Arts and Heritage Center will be having extended hours to give you some last-minute Christmas shopping opportunity in the gift shop down there. It'll be open until 8 o'clock that Thursday.
Thank you.
Next is Tom with engineering and public works.
Good evening. Well, our West Avenue crosswalk contractor, our on again, off again project is off again for a few days this week due to the rainy weather, but he's currently scheduled to return on Thursday for the Spring Grove Avenue intersection, Friday for the Pine Grove Avenue intersection, and Saturday to complete the Buena Vista Avenue intersection.
Buena Vista. Crosswalk of Buena Vista.
Right. And then keep in mind, hopefully they will complete all that work, but then they'll have to come back in a few weeks to do the line striping at the crosswalk, so they'll kind of have to start it all over again. One other late breaking news item I got this afternoon from the SCDOT is they are scheduled to, it's outside the city, but it will likely affect a large number of city people. They're scheduled to close Atomic Road south of US 1. This is between US 1 and the Horse Creek wastewater treatment plant for some bridge repair. They're scheduled to close that road to all traffic beginning January 6th, and they are currently scheduled that closure to last up to 210 days. So they have a detour intended The detour will be basically US 1 to I-520, into Georgia to Sandbar Ferry Road, and then back into South Carolina into Beach Island is the detour.
Is that going to affect all the SRS traffic coming through there?
Yeah, definitely.
They're gonna send something out on that versus
Yeah, they'll
pass
have,
out.
I'm told that will be on their public information page, but I have not been given a link or when that will actually be posted on their page. I'll provide it as soon as it's available.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. And to close out the department details is Kayla with Human Resources.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. To go along with our employment opportunities, just a reminder, we have our employee luncheon on Thursday of this week. The luncheon itself is from 12 to 1, but food will be served from 11 to 2. Look forward to seeing y'all there.
With that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Clifford.
All right, so the next briefing is the quarterly update for the Riverside Village, and I will be turning that over to Linda as soon as the slides come up.
Good evening. So I already have one update to make to this slide. It is December 9th and not November 9th. I was trying to get an extra month of work in there, but it didn't work. Next slide, please. Okay. So as you know, our Q3 update was delayed due to Hurricane Helene, but I did complete the voluntary disclosure on time. It was published on the MSRB website and the city's financial transparency page on October 31st. The next 7 slides I have are haven't changed since Q2 updates, and they're just the statistical information from our financial statements. So if there's no objection, I'm just going to skip over to slide 10. Okay, and also one quick note, since we're so late in the year giving this update, I'm going to go ahead and update you with the numbers from through November 30th of 2024 this time. So as you'll see, the city's hospitality collection is at $2,497,000 and 30. I'm gonna try that again. $2,497,345. This is up from last year's year-to-date total of $2,364,348. We are noticing about a 5% increase total so far. Our financial model expected about $900,000 in collections. So once again, we're exceeding that expectation. Our monthly collections are averaging about $220,000 a month. So I expect that we shall end the year with about $2.7 million in collections. Our highest month this year was in May, which was our April collections with $284,000, which obviously was due to our Masters tournament. And then June followed that with $254,000. This year, new restaurants to North Augusta include the Wingstop at Exit 5, In Donuts and Beefed Up off of Knox Avenue, and then we have Bowl Boss and Wrap and Roll Kitchen right here in downtown. Next slide. Next, we have our accommodation taxes. Again, the city collects at 3% accommodations tax, but only taxes from the Crown Plaza are dedicated for debt service. At this time last year, our collections were $339,139. This year, you see, they're up to $456,243. We've seen an increase of about $117,000 in accommodation tax revenue. So that is about a 34% increase. As of June, in the second quarter report, we were at a 30% increase. So we made some improvement in there. True by Hilton is continuing to be an asset to this increase in ACOM tax that we're saving. And overall, our third quarter brought in $111,000 in receipts, and the fourth quarter is looking to surpass that number. We've already collected almost $90,000 in these past 2 months. I feel that the impact of the contractors and some displaced residents have contributed to the high number that we saw in October's numbers. Next slide. All right, next we have our TIF revenues, and we are, once again, we're in line with last year. We've seen about a 3% increase over last year's numbers at this time. If you remember at the last update that I had mentioned that our collections were down about 1% due to the stadium deck taxes not being paid. Those have been paid, we're caught up, and now we're trending back up. The TIF revenues are exceeding the projected revenue of about $2,523,205 by over $975,000. We still have one more payment that we'll receive from the county in December, and historically those payments come in around the $50,000 mark. So I expect that we will exceed our model number by over $1 million. The city has paid our $350,000 payment to Aiken County for our intergovernmental agreement, and we were not required to make any additional payments to overlapping tax entities.
And when does that stop, Aiken County?
It's way out there.
Oh, way out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time.
Almost $1 million more than financial plan shows.
We're tracking to collect $1 million more than the model predicted for TIF. Next slide. This slide didn't change, so we can move on to the next one. Parking revenues. So you'll notice that there's a big number in there. We were able to collect some of the payments for our parking agreement with Crown Plaza when it was sold. So we have a net. So this number includes all of our expenses as well. So we have a net amount of $183,459. The city will stay in touch with the new owners and management and make sure that we get our parking agreement taken care of. But again, the hospitality, accommodations, and TIF revenues have far exceeded revenue projections, so parking revenue is not a concern when we're making our bond payments. Next slide.
On the hotel deck, and I hate to bring this up, but that has to be one of the nastiest parking garages I've ever seen. Whatever happened about the maintenance agreement or whatever, was somebody cleaning that hotel deck? You scared of spiders and everything else, and they're just trash.
I have no comment to make at this time, Councilwoman. We'll take a look at that.
Okay, well, it's ugly.
And lastly, we've got the stadium revenues. We did receive all of our emissions tax from the state. That number went down about $6,000 this year over last year. Again, this is the tax from the emissions sales with the Green Jackets. The Green Jackets have made the rental payment on both the stadium and retail space, and the corporate naming rights we expect in December this month. The performance license fees were paid and did increase over 2023. So we should see just a slight gain this year in total revenue from the stadium. And that concludes my update for tonight.
Thank you. These numbers are really good. Exciting to see what's happening in North Augusta and Riverside Village. So.
And away we go on the 9th of December. Next slide, please. No changes to the lines of effort. Again, main effort is still debris removal. Next slide. Again, this is a highlight of our strategy. Again, we've got SCDOT handling the state-maintained roads. We've got Aiken County's portion of the contract with SDR handling the county roads. And then we have city roads being handled by city crews and also by SDR, Southern Disaster Recovery. And then we're also handling our parks and greenway with a mixture of R&R tree contractor and city crews that are doing things. And again, as we've talked about, residents always have the free option of going to the C&D landfill at Barton, which is at the end of our presentation here. Next slide. No changes to staff guidance. Again, we still have a lot of crews working on voluntary overtime. And again, we're also trying to make sure we're using a good strategy about what we're picking up with city vehicles because those are much smaller than the large contracted vehicles that are brought in, the singles and the doubles there. And next slide. So again, just for our citizens at home, because I know the council members have seen this pretty frequently, which is you got quite a patchwork there of ownership and maintenance of roads. So all the red is SCDOT, all the blue is city. There's some orange in there for a limited amount, which is county. And you got some gray, which are private roads. Next slide. And again, this is a very similar slide. SCDOT has also published a very similar slide. And I've gone around and looked at a couple neighborhoods where there have been debris piles that have been left behind, and you'll have citizens that will say, well, they skipped a pile. And I'll go look at this pile and see that there's fencing material or roofing material or any number of things that are intermixed in those piles. And whether it's SDR or SCDOT contractors, they're not going to pick those piles up because they're commingled debris. It has to be pure vegetative debris. By that I mean tree stumps, tree limbs, green things cannot be fencing material or construction material. That has to be separated. Next slide. So as we talked about at the community engagement brief, this is broadly what we're trying to do south of I-20 with the city contracted crews, not city crews, but the contractors, which was using the guardrails of the Savannah River and Martintown Road, working north to south from I-20 all the way down to downtown. And you can see the arrow is indicative of what we've attempted to do on the right-hand side. That's the heat map of where the contractors have operated. And so the red spots there are more activity, green spots are activity, but not as much density. But you can see there in the top, that's Savannah Barony. To the right there is Chanticleer. And then in the middle there is the Rapids. And there on the bottom is parts of Hammond Hills going in there. So you've got trying to show you essentially that we have a plan, and what our contractor is doing is executing the plan that we're giving them. Next slide. So as we talked about at the community engagement brief, these are the areas. So as we wrap up the major efforts on the city roads, not all roads, but the city maintained roads on the other side of Martintown Road, now they're transitioning into neighborhoods on the other side of Martintown to include Lyndhurst, which at least for map purposes includes Hidden Hills and North Hills Drive, those neighborhoods, along with Knollwood, and also areas around Paul Knox and North Augusta High School. Next slide. And then for north of I-20, our contractors already completed step one, which was the Bergen Place neighborhood. So Bergen Place is essentially completed. Moving on to number 2, Oak Creek. That neighborhood has been completed. And then their next step is moving over to Walnut Lane. City crews have completed probably 95% of those neighborhoods in the Walnut Lane area. And so what we've asked SDR to do is concentrate on Walnut Lane, the road itself that bifurcates those neighborhoods. There's still an awful lot of debris on that road, and we'd like to use SDR assets because they have a self-contained boom on their vehicles. So that'll be helpful for us to cut down the amount of road work happening in the middle of Walnut Lane when that's going on. So that's their next mission, if you will, north of I-20. And again, there are no, aside from the major corridors of Bergen Road and Austin Grayville, all the neighborhood roads north of I-20 are city maintained roads, not SCDOT. So it makes it a little cleaner for us as far as figuring out who's doing what to who. And they're north of I-20, it's mostly us. Next slide. So I wanted to tell you what we got city crews working on right now. You'll have to pardon the John Madden scribbles on the map. If you can divine what I was trying to write there, then you're a better man or woman than most. So on the left-hand side of your screen there is off of Martintown Road. And so the big circle is essentially Bolin road. And we've got crews that are working Bowling Road, both contracted and city crews have been working Bowling Road, and they'll likely be on there for a chunk of this week. There's an awful lot of debris on Bowling Road. Anything that comes up against the Greenway is going to have a decent amount of vegetative debris. Bowling Court is largely cleared by now, and most of the other smaller tributary roads in that neighborhood have been cleared that are city responsibility. So I certainly think by Friday we'll have the city requirements in that neighborhood completed, and they're on the right-hand side of the road. Some of the neighborhood that is off of Dove Street, not Dove Street itself, but Dove Court and two other roads that are the cul-de-sacs there are city responsibilities, and we're planning on getting city crews in there shortly. Next slide.
Let me tell you, for the citizens who are looking at this, you're seeing the small circles because there's a section of a major road that may be DOT, but there's a section of the road is city.
That's correct.
So you're not seeing, when he's saying Bowling Road, it really isn't the Bowling Road you're thinking of, but it is the spurs that come off Bowling Road as well as part of Bowling Road, but not all of Bowling Road.
Correct.
Whole circle, yeah.
And so this is the across the street from Knollwood there on the east side of Five Notch, south of Mossy Creek. We've been back in that neighborhood. That's one that the city crews are planning on being able to complete. And then there's one small portion of Bevel Link Avenue just south of Bunting that's actually a city road. And you can see that everything it's surrounded by is SCDOT, but that one road section is ours. So we'll get a city crew in there. So those are the current priorities of work for our city crews as they're going out through this week and into the weekend. Next slide. For SDR, well, we've got them working 4 major areas south of I-20. And so they are finishing up the rapids. Again, this is when we say finishing, we're talking about first pass. So there'll still be root balls that'll still be in the neighborhood. There'll still be some finish work to do, but this is the first pass. And what I've observed in the rapids is we'll have SDR come through, they'll do a pass, and within a couple of days of that, you'll have a tree company come in and take down a bunch of stuff from somebody's backyard and push it right out onto the road. So we're not going to loop the contractor right around to pick them up again. They're going to get that on the second pass. So we're trying to give everybody in the city a first pass first before we go out and get the second round pickup. So I think we'll have our city contracted crews through the rapids by the end of this week. And then you also have efforts there in North Hills and Hidden Hills. I went out and observed crews today. They've made some good penetration in both North Hills and Hidden Hills neighborhoods. And then we've got contractor crews currently working in Knollwood, and I would tell you that's probably going to be a 1 to 2 week process just based on the amount of debris there, being close to the Greenway as it is and just being an older neighborhood. There's a lot of older trees, and there's a lot of stuff that's down there, so they'll be there. And then the crews have started on the River Club neighborhood, and that's a good thing for the contractor because their dump site's over by East Buena Vista, so it means that their turn ratio is much shorter to drop loads so they can be more efficient in that neighborhood. So that's what we have those crews working on over the next week or two. Next slide.
And that is the truth because people don't realize how they have to go somewhere else to unload and come back.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that can be 30 minutes to an hour almost.
Absolutely. And as I discussed earlier, we've got the self-haul option within the bargain C&D. Again, if you've got North Augusta, Aiken County, South Carolina driver's license, that will allow you to use that facility for free. Again, that's for residential use, not contracted use. Contractors can certainly use that landfill that they're paying, but if you're just a resident with a pickup truck or a trailer or both, you can certainly use that as an option. Next slide. And again, that's the location of the Barden CD landfill out closer to Aiken Tech, on the backside of Aiken Tech, and it's about 11 road miles here from City Hall. Next slide. Again, we've had this discussion before about tree liability, and just so you all know, part of our contract with R&R Tree Company is to remove dangerous trees, and so those are not necessarily trees that are leaning over the roadways out of the rights of way. It has more to do with trees that are on city property that are leaning, that have not yet fallen over property. So the example I typically use is, hey, there's a tree that's on the Greenway. It's now hanging over somebody's backyard. It looks like it's getting perilously close to coming off and hitting their fence, hitting their shed, hitting their house. We send Roy Kibler and his arborist team to assess and see, is this a critical issue or is this one that can wait? And we rank order the tree requirements, and R&R, as they're available, are going out and getting after some of those trees. I think they've hit 6 or 7 already.
No, we still referring these people.
To Jamie,
Well, to
yes.
Jamie, because I had one today. I hope she called.
Next slide. So again, I'll keep showing this until I think we've achieved mission success, or until you tell me otherwise. I think what you're going to see probably the soonest of these remaining taskings is going to be the greenway passable from end to end. I think that's going to help happen before we get fully through road hazards fully identified and removed. I would consider a root ball that's in the road as a road hazard. So even though we might identify where all these root balls are, until it actually gets picked up off the street, we're going to leave that as a unfulfilled mission. And likewise, road debris, until we have not just the city roads completed, but the SCDOT roads completed, then we'll continue to track that. I would tell you from a city road perspective, based on road miles, we're at about 80% as of this afternoon. So of the city roads, city maintained roads, we're 80% of the way there and making good progress, and we'll continue to do so. And then the recreational facilities, and when I say open to the extent possible, I think that we're going to have some areas that aren't going to be open anytime soon. Some of the structures that were damaged by falling trees, we're not going to tie ourselves to that time standard because it's going to take a long time, either the insurance process or the engineering process, to get that recouped. But a lot of the park space, as R&R goes through and is removing trees from the parks, and we're able to reopen the parks, I think we'll be in a good place. So if I was going to, if pressed to ask today, I would say, certainly by the end of January, I feel very confident that between the recreational parks and the greenway, we'll be in really good shape. And I think also by that point, Tom will have done a complete first pass, at least for city roads. Next slide. And I'll take any questions from the council.
Good
Well,
report as always.
Jim, thank you, and JD and staff, directors. This has to get a little boring every now and then. You've been doing it so long. So thank you, though, for keeping us and citizens updated. Communications.
I do have a quick question. I know that we're reporting information to you, Jamie. Do we know how many people are on that list? Because, I'm getting updates or emails from where am I?
So I would tell you, Councilman, is that if we have determined it's a life, health, safety urgent tree, those folks know it, because our arborist, has told them, hey, we've done an assessment. The tree is a problem. We're fixing to get out there along this kind of time frame. But there's a lot of people that have reported leaning trees that our arborist has already done an assessment on, and is not in the top tier. There's no urgent risk of this tree going over. Again, I'm not making that determination because I'm not qualified to do it. But we have folks that can and do. And we say, okay, well, then we'll get to them. Just like the debris piles, we get to them when we can get to them.
But are we updating them? Because I'm getting emails constantly from the same people over and over, forgot about me or things like that. I don't know,
if you want to send me a couple of those names, we'll take a look and see, number one, if they're on the list, number two, if they've already been contacted. But some of the people we know have been contacted, they just don't like the answer they've been given and want
to get that.
Right, get to the front of the line. So.
Well, I'm going to have to brag on Mayor Britton Williams.
Please don't.
Yes, I am. Today I was in Gary's, which I had to go once or twice a day to Gary's Hamburger. And this one of the cooks, Janine's kid, who in the world put up all those city lights and those trees? And I first one said, no, I said, I'm Mayor. She said, Britton, to tell you thank you so much. First of all, they're absolutely beautiful. And second, she comes in during the night to Gary's to get started cooking, and it's dark. But those trees have made her feel safe. But she said, please tell that mayor thank you.
Well, let her know that I didn't put them up, but really this council, people, I'm going to preach for a second. we have a city council that's made prioritizations, and one of the priorities was our downtown. And when you do that, then you can allow people smarter and better than us, meaning our directors and their people, to then go out and take the vision that this council has voted on and make it successful for our citizens. And we, with JD's as assistant city administrator, then there was support from Jim, and tourism, parks and rec, it's just made a huge difference as far as the lights and what we're doing. It's very nice. Really,
Well, everybody
it's us working
did,
together.
Mayor.
It's all of us working
But
together.
you had the vision.
All of us working together.
You had the vision.
All right. Well, thank you. Anything else? I got one thing. If you would, for council, if you haven't already, when you go down there, and staff, the directors as well, go down the elevator, you come out, those are all the coloring, Sergeant Justice, and all our kindergartens through 4th grade colored those, and we're voting on them. We're going to reward them probably next week. We'll get Sergeant Justice, and we'll go and actually go to the schools and give those kids the winners of the coloring. But if you would vote, it's real simple. Just get a little card, vote, and stick in a little pan. So thank Jamie for her hard work. She always spearheads that for us, and I really appreciate that effort. So anything else, David, for you? Pat, you good? You sure? Okay. Mr. Buck? All right, we stand adjourned. Y'all have a good evening.